The newest installment of the Marvel Cinematic Universe has arrived, and, 29 movies in, we're given the first fourth installment in a character's ongoing solo series, even if it is his sixth appearance so far. It's also the first direct sequel that Taika Waititi has made to one of his own films, and your enjoyment of Thor Love and Thunder will largely come down to how much you enjoyed his previous installment. Thor's reinvention from a grounded, Shakespearean fish-out-of-water character to a more bombastic bro surfer that combines big belly laughs and bigger sentimentality is cemented in this uneven, irreverent, and over-the-top journey through the cosmos. Thor Love and Thunder opens with Thor in a period of unrest, tagging along with the Guardians of the Galaxy before parting ways when Gorr, the God Butcher, begins slaughtering his way across the universe. In addition to this, Jane Foster, of the previous Thor movies, finds herself deemed worthy by Mjolnir, and joins King Valkyrie in helping Thor in his pursuit of Gorr. It's a simple story that paved way for more character development, and interactions that felt very improv heavy, probably even more so than Thor Ragnarok. Love and Thunder is still very much Thor's film, with the character dealing with the many losses he has faced in the previous MCU films. Hemsworth sells the silly, improv punchline humour and pathos easily, and is still a highlight in this particular movie. Natalie Portman is also quite good here, and is easily given much more to do than all of her previous appearances combined. It's easy to see why she would be eager to return, with her beefed up role she has wholeheartedly committed to. I love that they didn't just make her a stock female stereotype action character. She keeps the continuity of her previous appearances, but levels up to god levels of power. If anyone got shorted in this film, it's probably Tessa Thompson's King Valkyrie, which is weird, because I feel like she's really one of the more interesting characters. She has a fantastic look and excellent comedic timing, but I can see how her screen time was balanced out with Portman's. The person who was really given an excellent outing here was Christian Bale. His Gorr, the God Butcher, despite diverging with his comic counterpart, looks absolutely excellent on the screen. His appearance, with sharp black teeth and piercing glowing eyes, is perhaps one of the most visually terrifying villains the MCU has ever developed. He was probably the biggest highlight of the film for me, and the film always cranked up a notch when he slipped out of the shadows. If nothing else, Taika Waititi is an absolute pro at balancing tones here as well. Silly improv humour smashes up against striking horror visuals without ever really feeling too out of place. The tone is actually all over the place here, but instead of feeling inconsistent, you're kind of given a bit of a smorgasbord of elements. There is a lot of humour. A lot of humour. Probably too much humour. To the point where it really undercuts a lot of the heavier, darker elements that the film has introduced with Gorr. The film feels like an 80s comedic sci-fi fantasy / rom-com. It's an over-the-top heavy metal Viking epic, with splashings of colourful costumes and over-the-top theatricality. It's Thor Ragnarok cranked up to 11. Just like the previous Thor film, the action beats are all unique and fun, if over with a little too quickly. I miss the more grounded, hand-to-hand choreography of Winter Soldier and Shang-Chi, but it's still fun to watch Thor go full lightning god, with slick visuals and fun musical choices. Taika definitely knows how to stage a fun action set piece to deliver an audience-rousing experience, combining big body blows and big laughs, sometimes at the same time. One of the big takeaway elements of the movie for me was the visuals. It never felt like this movie was shot or developed in the midst of a pandemic the way I've seen with some of the other Marvel movies. The visuals in particular are extremely striking. There is big, bold colours and inky black shadows used to fantastic effect. I love movies that are visually striking, and even if Thor isn't on the same level of cinematography as the Batman, it's distinctive amongst other MCU properties. Love and Thunder is absolutely a product of a filmmaker with a very distinct visual style, helping it stand out amongst other Marvel installments. I can already tell that some people are going to love Thor Love and Thunder just because it's funny Thor. or because you see Chris Hemsworth perfectly chiseled ass on the big screen. For me, it's probably on the same level as Doctor Strange 2. It's a fun romp that gives our characters some more development, but doesn't really push the overall story of the MCU forward so much as it just recolors the character arcs of popular heroes. I had fun with the movie, but really wish, for probably the first time, that this narrative had been split over a 2-film arc. Gore absolutely should have been the focus for the first film, with Jane Foster given her own solo entry. The more I think about it, the more I liked Portman's role here in this film. She's given some real emotional depth to work with. Her costume is instantly iconic. The rom-com tone even works well with Portman and Hemsworth sharing some really decent on-screen chemistry. I also wish we got to see more of Bale's God Butcher. He unfortunately falls victim to the ongoing trend of Marvel underutilizing their villains. Bale was excellent in the role. Like, easily one of my favourite MCU villain performances of all time. I also think the third act of the film is exceptionally messy. It felt like they were ramping up to a big climax when the pacing and tension just stops dead in its tracks for 15 minutes before ramping up again. It was very strange. Also in line with Doctor Strange 2. I wouldn't be surprised if a much longer cut of this movie exists, because it feels like a lot of stuff was cut, or at least trimmed significantly, for its very fast-paced 2-hour runtime. Even with the messy third act, a lot of movie is packed into this movie. The actual conclusion of the film is really going to divide its audience, and despite being the next natural step in the character's journey, it's likely going to heavily impact the narrative of whatever comes next for Thor. I really hope that at least Waititi returns to direct and conclude his Thor trilogy. His unique directorial style is the heart of these last 2 Thor movies, which has made them so distinct, and will likely lead a lot of people to enjoy this latest installment. All of this being said, I am starting to notice a little bit of fatigue with these Marvel movies. I'm not going to say that the MCU is on the downslide. I'm not jumping on that bandwagon. Far from it. I love watching each new installment in this cinema staple, but it is starting to feel a bit disconnected. Or maybe oversaturated. Each new film used to feel like a big event, but now they lack that special something that made them must-sees at the cinema. I still look forward to each of them, but I'm curious to see where this overall saga is heading now in Phase 4. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy this movie. I certainly enjoyed it more than the last Doctor Strange, I think. But your mileage is definitely going to vary depending on how much you like your comedic Thor. I really enjoyed a lot of the individual elements of this latest MCU film, but I really hope they start to dial back at least a little bit some of the more improv-heavy humour and let some of the other elements shine. Either way, Thor Love and Thunder is a memorable installment in the Marvel Pantheon. Just don't forget to stick around for both of the post-credit scenes. They're both equally solid and promise big things to come. So that's my review of Thor Love and Thunder. Have you seen it? Did you like it? Tell me your thoughts below. I'll see you here for more reviews coming soon. Later days.